Hi, everyone. This is Patrick Proctor again, and I'm here to introduce you to what we are calling Unit Zero, which is the introduction for you and your students to the CLAVES program. So here we go. Um, First, before we get started, again, like in all of our videos, if you want to go directly to the lessons, you can use these QR codes. You can go right to the associated videos with this tutorial by clicking the second QR code. So unit overview for unit 0 is the question is really about how does thinking about language help with reading and writing? That's what we're focusing on in this broad unit. This unit, unlike the other units, only has 3 lessons because it's introductory. And the focus here is on emojis. Not just cute, but important for communication. So the idea here is that emojis can be used as language. That's sort of introduction to lesson 1. In lesson 2, we look at a video talking about how emojis are the newest language. In lesson 3 is a discussion. Should emojis be considered a language? And if so, should they be taught in schools? What do you think? So in this unit, we have multimodal texts. In lesson 1, we have a print text, a PDF text about emojis, not just a cute, but important for communication. In lesson 2, we have a video, emojis as the world's newest language. And then lesson 3 is a discussion where students can take notes about what they learned from the article and what they learned about the video in terms of deciding what they think about whether emojis should be considered a language. The materials there are 3 lesson plans and there's a student workbook. But again, this is a very straightforward introductory unit, as we're calling it. So just briefly to go through these 3 lessons. Lesson 1, you have the text. Like I said before, the article is emojis, not just cute, but important for communication. This can be found in the student workbook. There are 4 total vocabulary words that we'll be exploring in these lessons. 2 in lesson 1 and 2 in lesson 2. The key vocabulary for lesson 1, interestingly, is the word language and the word vocabulary, because it's important to be able to use these words to talk about language. And so these are just defining what do we mean by language and what do we mean by vocabulary. Then moving on to lesson 2, the multimodal text, as I said before, is emoji as the world's newest language. This is sort of a humorous video. It can be found in the PowerPoint deck that's found in the materials section. And this gives additional information about how emojis are in fact used like a language. The question is whether for the students it should be taught in schools. There are 2 other vocabulary terms here that we want students to get familiar with, and those are morphology and syntax. So they need to know what morphology means, which is sort of breaking apart words or the study of the form and structure of words. And then what is syntax? We want kids to understand that syntax really refers, for the purposes of CLAVES, to things like parts of speech and sentence construction and things like that. So just getting students familiar with what we call this meta language, the language that you need to talk about language. And finally, in lesson 3, we ask students to just have a discussion based on the text that they've read and the text that they've watched and listened to, and bringing in their own opinions and background knowledge and own, social media use and digital technology use and use of emojis. Should emojis be considered a language? Do they think it's a language? Do they use it as a language? And if so, should we be teaching this language in school? And so really what we want kids to do is to have a facilitated discussion with you, the teacher, as the facilitator. And when they have this discussion, as in all CLAVES discussions, we try to start out with some discussion norms, being respectful of classmates, listening to the ideas that classmates are presenting, sticking to the topic, and talking without raising your hand. So what we want to try to get to is a discussion where students aren't raising their hand to speak. when they're not speaking directly to you, the teacher, but rather to each other as students. And so it's a much more organic kind of a conversation. And so just to review, here's the scope and sequence just for Unit 0. So you can see on the rows on the left-hand side there, we focus on activating prior knowledge, we focus on reading, and we focus on language targets. In day 1, we activate prior knowledge by introducing CLAVES, what it is, asking students what they think language is, what do they know about language, and then reading the article, not just cute, emojis are key for communication. Targeted skills on day 1 are questioning, inferencing, and summarizing from reading the text. And the key discussion question for that text is, how do you think emojis are like a language? How do you think they're not like a language? And again, like I said before, we'll be introducing the words language and vocabulary on that day 1. Then on day 2, again, we're coming back to activating prior knowledge. Do you speak differently with family members, friends, teachers, or the principal? Like, how does your language vary? Because that's very important for thinking about language. Then the text here is the video. The emoji is the world's newest language. Again, targeting skills like inferencing, summarizing, getting evidence from text. And then key question for that text: how do emojis let you express who you are? Do you think you could write a whole essay with just emojis? And how would emojis be taught if there were a language taught in schools? How would you go about teaching that? So again, you can see how those key discussion questions for the given text are leading to that day 3 final discussion. Should emojis be considered a language? And if so, should they be taught in schools? So that's the basic overview. The idea is that would take 3 instructional periods. It's fun. Kids tend to enjoy this particular text because it's engaging and is very relevant to their lived experiences. And so with that, I'm going to stop, and we will move on to the more substantive units 1, 2, and 3. Thanks for listening.